Let me try that again. Okay, roll. All right. Steve, pick it up.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Steve Palm. I live in East Taunton, Massachusetts with my wife, Carrie, and my 18-year-old son, Cameron. I'm a UPS driver, and I'm also the co-chair of the Bristol County Regional Coalition for Suicide Prevention. And I'm the president of the Casey Palm Project for Youth Suicide Prevention. As I just stated, the Casey Project is named after my daughter, Casey. In 2014, I lost my daughter to suicide. She was 14 years old. And approximately a year later, I found the Bristol County Regional Coalition for Suicide Prevention for grief support. They provided me with all the support I needed. It was what I needed at the time. I still use it. It was something that I had to do to have a release of all the grief that I was carrying and continue to carry. It's been a little more than 8 years, and it'll never go away. But it's participating in the workshops and in some different trainings. We have a suicide prevention walk we do. Those are the things that I needed for my healing, my continued healing. Early on in my grief, I found it was almost paralyzing, especially early on. It's all consuming, and I needed a way to somehow release that and gain some well-being and something to get me to go move forward. And it's not always easy, and having help from others that understand and may have gone through the same thing. It's so important for me. It's part of my what's the word I'm looking for? It's the new me, and it's something that I continue to work on. Self-care. The term self-care, we hear it all the time in these workshops, and self-care, it's something that I sometimes need a kick in the butt. I know when my grief is creeping up and getting stronger. We just passed the holidays, the Christmas holidays. My daughter's favorite time of the year was always Christmas, and she'd find Christmas music in September and start listening to it in September. And, we watched all the Christmas movies. And so ever since then, ever since she passed, Christmas is especially difficult for me. And this year, with my job being as a UPS driver, it's very hectic time of year also. And I was able to use my wife, Carrie, as my on-car help this year. And this was her second year doing it. So it was us being together for the Christmas season for many, many hours. And so this year I found that the grief wasn't as strong, but right after Christmas, the day after Christmas, bam, it hit me again. And I recognize the feeling and why I feel the way I do, and the emotions that can cripple me. And then I know I need to do some self-care. And I have people that reach out to me because of my experience, and I am vocal about my loss. And I always preach about self-care, but I don't always do it myself. And these workshops, they really, really help me to re-energize myself. And I'm grateful to work with everyone here. And I would recommend it for anyone, especially if you're in a rut, you're having difficult getting through day to day. I highly recommend any of these workshops, especially the Re-Energize, Reconnect. And I thank Anne-Marie and Tracy for creating these and for continuing to offering them and talking about them and promoting them. And thank you very much. Can't hear you, Anne-Marie.
Tada.
Hello, everybody. I'm Pata Sugimoto. I'm a Sansei mixed heritage Japanese American, and the pronouns I use are she, her, hers. I'm a person with lived experience with major depression and complex PTSD, as well as a suicide attempt survivor and an impacted family member. My mother had bipolar disorder, and so does my daughter. So I say I'm in the center of these caregiving kind of situations, although my mother has passed. I'm also the Associate Director of Equity for the Massachusetts Coalition for Suicide Prevention and on their executive committee as well. I am the training director for the National Asian American Pacific Islander Mental Health Association and the director of NAPIAN, which is the National Asian American Pacific Islander Empowerment Network. And that network, it's called NAPIAN, is what the name of that is. And that's a network of Asian American people with lived experience. And that includes impacted family and friends. So it's people who have mental health concerns, people who are attempt survivors, lost survivors of suicide, and impacted family and friends. And I just want to say, I think it's really important that when we think about people with lived experience, that we include impacted family and friends, because we are a group that has been sorely neglected and not, the reason why, finding inner peace workshops are important to me in part is because it's the only thing out there. I haven't found anything else for impacted family. And I think that that's really important because there's so many of us and we worry so, and I think having other people who understand that worry actually is the thing that brings me back to these workshops, wants me to help lead them, wants me to be part of this movement, because so many people don't have any resource and are at home with their loved one who's suffering and don't know what to do. Just don't know what to do. And I think part of knowing what to do is knowing when to take care of oneself, because the program talks about the oxygen mask axiom and the need for all of us who are caregivers to really take care of ourselves, because how can we help another person if we don't have the oxygen to breathe? So I think that's a thing that comes to mind when I think about these workshops and think about the work. And the other thing is, one of the things we're working on is making these workshops really accessible to various populations too. And I got a small grant and to work on making an Asian American specific IFF workshop because when you talk about different groups, you also talk about different cultural values, different ways of present, different perspectives. But the framework of these workshops really cuts across. It's not like, when you talk about things like, the oxygen mask axiom, it's like, yes, regardless of what culture you are, regardless of what your background is, you need to take care of yourself before you try to take care of someone else. So I just want to say that I really appreciate that these were developed. Thank you, Tracy and Anne Marie. And I think we need to get them out further and wider, because there's so many people who need to hear what we have to say and who need the help that these workshops provide. Thanks.
Thank you, Pada. Joseph.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Joseph Marks. I'm a junior currently at University of Massachusetts in Dartmouth. I'm studying medical laboratory science. I'm an author, I'm an attempt survivor, and I'm an impacted family and friend. And now, obviously, a pretty big advocate for suicide prevention and also taking care of everyone, no matter what, mentally, because it's very important to take care of ourselves. For me, looking at these workshops, like as an attempt survivor and as an impacted family and friend, they've kind of helped me process a lot of like emotions that I thought I was kind of like over, because I feel like we get to a point sometimes where we're like, oh, we're good, we're like stable. And then like you start to take a step back and look at like your emotions and kind of where you're at. And you're like, oh, there's still a lot of unprocessed things going on in the brain. And so it's getting to be able to like process these emotions through these workshops has also been like helpful with like mindfulness, and so like being able to actually like be present and not have to kind of be so in my head all the time, and not letting kind of these unprocessed like emotions and fears kind of control my life and where I am in the moment. So that's kind of been one of the reasons why these workshops are very important for me, and probably I assume a lot of people. So obviously a big thanks to Anne-Marie and Tracy, as everyone else has said, because it's been kind of major. These workshops have been really helpful. And yeah.
Joseph, thank you. We are blessed to have you with us, and I do want to put a little addendum onto that, is that Joseph and Nina from Miami are going to be working with us to, no joke, translate the workshops into millennial language. And that came about because at one point, we were talking about forgiveness, and I mentioned Don Henley and the Eagles, and Joseph stood there like sort of glazed, and he said, who's Don Henley? And who are the Eagles? And at that point, we knew that, I think we need to make some changes here. And Pada is our guide in that, on how that, because that's about diversity, and inclusion. It's so important that in equity is that we recognize that there is not a cookie cutter, one size fits all here. And we need to make sure that we are, when we say we welcome everyone to our table, that we are doing it. Now, for the panel, I'd like you to just take a pause. I discovered, thanks to Tracy Oser, that when I clicked on go live, here's where the vision comes in, everybody. Now being partially blind, I missed the second level of having to click the second button. So we need to go back. And Tracy, I'm going to ask you, as if you never said a word to us, to start all over again, please.
I somehow knew you were going to do that. Okay, well, let's do this again then, shall we? All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tracy Pacheco Medeiros. I'm an author, a suicide attempt survivor, a suicide loss survivor, and an impacted family member. I'm a Massachusetts State Certified Peer Specialist with a BA in psychology and a concentration on addictions. First and foremost, I love my minions. Look, actually made it to the show today. I love motorcycles, road trips, and Stephen King. Like, love everything about Stephen King. Books, movies, anything. I have a number of reasons as to why I believe in participating in the R&R workshops might be helpful to others. After my last attempt more than 20 years ago, I had to change how I looked at life. I had to find healthy and helpful coping skills. And I have to continue to be willing to learn new things to improve the quality of my life. As a certified peer specialist, I know the value of a peer-to-peer interaction. One lived experience voice with another. I do wish I was aware of the other suicide attempt survivors so much sooner in my recovery and wellness journey. It really would have been like, I probably would have recovered easier, if I had someone like myself. For a long time, I thought I was a freak, and I felt totally alone. Talk saved lives. One of the things that I'm always stressing with attempt and loss survivors and their families in our impacted family and friends wellness workshops is how important it is for us to all break the silence and talk and talk and talk. Just sit and talk some more about what we have experienced and how we've not only learned to cope with the trauma, but to also find a life worth living in the face of it. When we began to develop the exercises that we use in the R&R, it was with the intent to help guide us to maintain some emotional balance as we grew older and experienced changes around us, even within our. During the filming of the documentary, A Voice at the Table, we all said the same thing in different ways. You know, we all felt that there was a gap in support resources for attempt survivors. We're all looking for a place to get together with other attempt survivors and exchange positive things that we've learned about ways to cope. There weren't any around, so we created one. So whenever, you know, I participate in the R&R as a facilitator or just one of the people sitting around a table, I come away feeling more connected, less alone, and I always learn something about myself, something that I might need to work on, or something that I'm even doing well. Anne Marie, thank you, everyone. Anne Marie, you're muted, by the way. By the way,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
still
yeah.
muted.
I'm still
Oh,
muted.
there you
No.
go. No, now you're not. That's
Hey, listen, I'm lucky I can see the screen, let alone where the mute button is.
of
So I
course.
for those who are watching, and we know we have Tracy Oser out there. Tracy Oser is going to be on the panel seat within the next couple of weeks. So she'll be where you all are, and we may be joining her. Um, for those who don't know, and that would probably be most of people watching and listening, there are two main categories for our workshops: finding inner peace and the re-energize and reconnect. And you heard a reference to the initials R and R. In 2014, Finding Inner Peace was initially focused on families of suicide attempt or ideation survivors. However, within a year, we expanded our lens to include suicide loss survivors. And has always, inevitably, someone always asks, well, why? Because we discovered in talking to hundreds of loss survivors that the fear of losing another family member is ever present. And when they realized that, they said, Could we do a workshop? Can we do this?" And we said, "Absolutely." And so we adapted the R&R to be for loss survivors also. Um, and it's important to clarify that it was written for those who are further along the recovery path. That sometimes people are a little taken aback. This is our workshops. The Re-Energize and Reconnect for attempt and/or loss survivors is not intended for someone who just came off a suicide attempt crisis. It is not for someone who is newly bereaved. It might be just a tad early for that. Then that's been based on the feedback we got from loss survivors, of which I am one. Um, so that is really for those who are further along the healing and recovery path. And there is, I want to say that there is, if you are looking for an immediate crisis support process, look up Dee Dee Hirsch. The Dee Dee Hirsch model is specifically, was started out in California, and it is specifically for those who are in crisis. There is usually a clinician within that group, whereas we are all peer to peer. We don't have a clinician on board. And to expand on what Tracy shared, when we began to develop the workshops after the release of our documentary of the same name, A Voice at the Table, I realized that not only was there no support for our loved ones, um, there was no support for the impacted family, as Pata is so well pointed out. And as an impacted family and friend, as I sit down at our workshops, I feel connected. I feel connected in a way I don't feel connected in other places. It's nice to sit at a table that you don't need to explain yourself to. It's nice to sit at a table that you may say something and you don't have to go into a dissertation to explain what that meant. And that's the whole purpose of peer-to-peer support, is that you don't have to explain. People are there because you're speaking from one heart to another and they get it. And that's an important, because it can feel. Um, Pot is right. We worry. We always worry. I don't know that we'll ever stop worrying as the impacted family. It's part of our nature. But the good news is that we also recognize in one of our workshops that control does not equal love, and so that's one of the workshops that we carry through, to make sure that we allow our remaining loved ones to live freely and happily, but it doesn't mean that we don't have some worry about it. Some of the workshops that the other is that we talk about it's okay to be angry, and that's a hard thing sometimes for parents to deal with when this is happening. We also believe very strongly in dreams do matter. As we went through that exercise for the very first time, way back in 2014, out of Tracy's mouth came Wicked Awesome Wish List because we didn't like that bucket list sound at all. And so we added the Wicked Awesome Wish List. And by the way, you have to keep renewing it every year, everybody. You don't get away with just what you put on there like 3 and 4 and 5 and 8 years ago. It's like what's on the Wicked Awesome Wish List now? I'll give you a hint on Tracy. She's still thinking about skydiving. Yeah, yeah. It's okay. It's all right. I just saw a great program about skydiving and I thought, isn't that nice that they're doing it and not me? So what we're going to do in the next several weeks is we're going to get together, once or twice a week, in various times, not all of us all at the same time. And we are going to do a little more of these informational workshops. We're going to bring in Tracy Osa from Spokane, Washington area. Jackie Christmas has been doing R&Rs out in Missouri for several years now. And Judy and Nina are down in Florida, and we're going to be bringing everybody together on screen to talk a little bit more about that. And then we will start to set up a specific, consistent schedule for a virtual online workshop process. Now I'm going to go back to everybody. I just wanted to add one last thing. In these last 9 years, I want you to know, as Pada was talking about culture and acceptance and equity and widening that lens, we have added multiple iterations to these workshops. So we have included domestic violence and suicide prevention, problem gambling and suicide prevention, substance abuse and suicide prevention, and there's no limit to where we can go with that. But the core process remains the same. Now I'm going to circle back to everybody to add into whatever you're up to. Tracy, anything else you want to jump in on?
Well, I mean, I did want to say about the Wicked Awesome wish list about skydiving. Yeah, that's on my list, but I think I got more prominent things, more meaningful on my list. I'll put that one on the back burner because now with being an amputee, my Wicked Awesome wish list may not be as hopeful, but we'll see. We'll see about skydiving. We'll have to look into it to see if I can jump with or without the leg. I may lose it, the leg, if I skydive with it. So it might fall off. I don't know. But yeah, we created the R&R. It was it's been challenging. It's challenging. I just want people to know that it's challenging, and it's making you take a real deep, hard look at yourself. This isn't an easy thing to do, but it does re-energize and reconnect people, suicide attempt survivors, loss survivors, family and friends, etc. It does connect people in ways that we've never been connected before. Like not in a million years would I be connected to Anne Marie. I mean, she's actually like the no fun lady in my eyes. She takes the you right out of fun, and I say that, with love, with also a little seriousness, you know what I mean? I wasn't born an adult. Anne Marie was. Period. That's all I need to say. I'm a kid at heart. I will never grow up, probably. And I hope I never will. Because I don't want to. It's just a number. You know, um, I guess that's it for me
All right, for now. Thank you.
for
All
now. Yeah.
right. Moving back over then. Pata, back to you.
Sure. I think, I was thinking about all the exercises and the ways that, the different sessions go. And I think it's really important that what Anne Marie and Tracy were talking about is the connection. I also think it's about growth. It's about like being able to say, I want to move from this spot that's so uncomfortable and so hard. I want to be able to handle that better in myself. So I think that that's part of it as well. And one exercise that's really has been really important and it sticks in my mind all the time is the frozen in time one. When you have a loved one who's in a serious situation, suicidal ideation or an attempt, and or you're worried, you're so worried you don't know what to do, and you don't know whether your action, like whether you should take a vacation that you planned, or whether you should go on that business trip because you're so worried about that person, and like thinking about those things, and then how to like not just knee jerk react, right? Because a part of it is just to move beyond that, I can't do that kind of feeling, to be able to say, okay, well, what's the reality? What supports do I have? Where am I? How can I take care of myself and my loved one? How can I not overreact or underreact? Right? We want to be able to judge and assess the situation clearly. So I think a lot of these exercises, and Anne-Marie mentioned a few of them, are really helpful in terms of the real common experiences that people who are either attempt survivor, loss survivor, or an impacted family member have, and some of the themes and concerns are addressed in these exercises. And the other thing I like about them is they're very open ended. Very open to whatever your experience is, because sometimes your experience may not be the sort of one that's quote unquote expected, if you will. And I think that these workshops really open up and allow people to have whatever experience they have. And in fact, one exercise, I can't remember which one, I remember saying to Anne Marie, well, I don't experience that way at all. And it was like, oh, okay, good. Let's have a conversation about that. So it's always about affirming and really understanding the diversity of experiences that people have, and being open and accepting of all of it, because it is not a cookie cutter. It's not one size fits all. So I think when we do the various exercises, there's a lot of latitude for people to be able to enter where they are, right? Enter where you are and grow from where you are to where you need to go. So thanks.
Pata, thank you. Steve, anything to add?
So I'm probably going to reiterate a couple of things that have already been said, but
That's
the,
good.
the connection and the growth, for me, the connection of being around others who I'm comfortable with, who I know they understand. They might not understand 100% what I've gone through or what I'm going through, but there's a comfort level, especially with the peer to peer, that helps me with my growth. And it's the exercises. I learned things about myself. Some of the exercises were writing down different dreams, different things we've done, things we'd like to change. It's just tremendous for my moving forward, and that's probably the main thing I get out of these workshops, moving forward.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Joseph?
Yeah, I'm probably also just gonna reiterate some things.
That's okay. That is so important, because there's the common thread that goes through all of us from very different backgrounds.
Exactly. So like Pata said, like a lot of these workshops are very open-ended, which I find also very helpful even when you're like, say if you've already done it once, you can come back to it and look at it from a whole new lens. And I, like Tracy said earlier, like we're always learning something new about ourselves. I feel like every time I come and look at one of these workshops, even if it's for like the 5th time, I feel like I'm learning something different or new about like my experience and where I am.
Thank you. Thank you all. And from my perspective, when we were first putting them together, what seems like 100 years ago, but it really wasn't. It was 2014. Uh, that was the goal. You know, one of the things that the first thing I had to learn, and Paula mentioned it, is the oxygen mask axiom, because as family, whether it's a sibling or we're the parents or we're just good friends, a good friend in the family. By the way, and close friends who have been impacted are almost never welcome anywhere else. There's a barrier there. Whether it's a loss survivor, an attempt survivor, I've witnessed it firsthand that, oh well, you're not the parent or you're not the sister or brother, and it's like that doesn't matter. The fear and the pain is still the same. So we opened our doors wide open, and I remember someone when Tracy and I went out and did a training out in Missouri back in 2018. We had two people come up to us and said, "Thank you, thank you. I've never felt included until today." In talking about the suicidal experiences that her family had experienced. So it's really important to that, and it was that we must learn to take care of ourselves first, and we are not good at that. There is no one I have encountered yet in all of our workshop process. Oh no, I don't have a problem taking care of myself first. And I just laugh and I say, yeah, right. Let's go through the last week and see who did you put first on what you were deciding to do, whether you were tired or it doesn't. It matters that this is right out of the airlines. And it's like, yeah, that oxygen mask must go on us first. So then that we have great discussions around soul care and what we all do for our soul care. And it's really important. It has to be practiced. It really has to be practiced. I'm going to go around one more time. And if you have anything to add, and then we'll have Joseph close us if we have nothing more to add for today. Remember, this is the first of many live streams. So, Tracy, I'm back to you.
So I just want to share a little bit, like we talked about our coping mechanisms and stuff. So I just want to share a little bit, like what I like to do is, I like to do crafts. I like the craft. I like the color. I like to do diamond art. I really am into the diamond art work. Um, and and I just love watching the minions. I mean, that to me gives me a sense of coping better to help me push me along the way. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Steve?
Tracy used the words "talk saves lives," and I truly believe that. And to be able for me to be able to use my voice and listen to others' voices and to be able to learn, it's a tremendous gift. It's a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of, and I thank you.
Oh, thank you. Para?
I think that these workshops really give people some tools in a toolkit. Tracy shared some of the tools that she uses in her coping, and I think we all develop our own toolkits. I mean, mine has some similar things. I mean, I'm Tracy. I relate the crafts, the art, all of that. Like just trying to get into a different space, and I do writing and all sorts of things. But this kind of connection and ability and these exercises, you don't just do it. It's not like a test in school or something. You do it and it's out of your head immediately. It's something that lingers, that you think about, that that you come back to. And as Joseph was saying, you can repeat an exercise and be at a completely different place. So I
Right.
think that these are part of the toolkit that I've developed, and that I think we offer for other people to participate in as well.
And before I turn to Joseph for what is now become our traditional customary closing, uh, I wanted to share that uh, without going into terrible detail, I'm coming up on a year when I had a stroke, and that stroke decreased my vision substantially. I am partially blind. And I want to share when someone says, "Well, what are the benefits of participating?" Just being on this live stream for me today and being able to hang out with this crew that you're seeing here and knowing that Tracy Oser and Barry Sanders and some of the others are watching, I could feel something lift off my shoulders that I didn't know was there. Whether it was stress, whether it was darkness, I don't know what it was, but I can tell, I'm not exaggerating. I can tell you, I already feel more upbeat, positive. And I'm the Pollyanna that most people want to smack up the side of the head, you know, because always looking on the bright side of things. But I can tell you, I mean that, and I can feel the tears in my eyes. This is life changing and life saving. More importantly, it's losing that sense of isolation that we're the only ones that have had this experience, and that's not true. And that doesn't diminish our experience, but we have the ability to support each other. And there is a huge bloody gap out there for the population we are talking about. We are talking about attempt and ideation survivors. We are talking about bereaved loss survivors. And we are talking about the millions of impacted family, friends, and community that are a part of that. I want to say from my heart to thank all of you um, for having hung in there for this long and stayed with us to do this. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. Joseph, take us out.
All right. So, as we all been talking about, soul care has been and self care has been huge for all of us. It's one of the tools that we get from these workshops. And one of my ways of soul care is writing, and so I write a lot of spoken word. So I have one of those for you today, and it's also about soul care. So yeah, it's titled soul care, and I'm just gonna get into it. Trauma weighs on our soul, makes us feel heavy, pulls us down, pulls us under the sea, reaching for something to hold on to, reaching for anything that can bring us to the surface, anything that will keep us above water. Soul care helps us bear this weight, helps us be in touch with our emotions, helps us heal, helps us find peace. Listening to music, gardening, hiking, writing, dancing, reading, things that lift your spirit, help you cope, help you stay afloat, help you survive, help you learn and heal from the past. These coping skills, these actions of self-care, make carrying this trauma easier, help us grow, help us heal, help us be us. Thank you.
Hey, Marie, you're muted.
You gotta love it, right? I know she's thriving on this, right? Marie's muted. She can't speak. I wanted to thank Joseph. I think he encapsulated that beautifully. So everybody put on your oxygen mask. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You are not alone. You are not the only ones. Talk saves lives. Reach out to anyone and everyone to talk to about this. We have to tear down the walls of stigma. We have to tear down the walls of judgment and discrimination. Sending love all to everyone here, and we will be back. Check on our Facebook pages, all of our individual Facebook pages, a Voice at the Table's Facebook page, and you will see where we are or where we're going to be. We'll get it up as much and as fast as we can. Thank you all. Take care. Stay out of trouble.
Thank you.
Try. Thank you all. All right.
Yeah.